Dylan. Guys, so let me start with this.
Yeah, you definitely need to preface us with this.
Welcome to 2023. We had talked about this last year. We didn't successfully pull it off. This year, everything's in our pathway that for January and maybe a little bit of February, we're going to be talking about some of the new Christmas content that dropped last year.
And to we did lift the veil a little bit, saying that to keep us in the spirit, we've been kind of binge recording as these things are dropping because, again, as much as we love Christmas, I love doing Christmassy things. It is hard sometimes to kind of chat about those Christmassy things and have be enthusiastic about them. And I think that brings us to a great point.
Well, so let's just say that these are going to be our sincere reactions. And
yes,
with our show, we typically try to go out of our way to talk about movies that we mutually love. That's why we're not doing an episode. We'll never do an episode on Better Watch Out, or we'll never do an episode on Jim Carrey's Grinch because we don't want to shit on something that people love.
Yeah, no.
We don't know what the fuck we're stepping into with these new things. So.
I'm like with those things, I know people love them, so I'm okay, again, I've jumped the gun and been fuck Jim Carrey's Grinch. That movie is just bad, and I genuinely believe so. But I'm not going to shit on someone's good time with that.
No. The closest we'll get, and I've already told Dylan this, the closest we're going to get to ever doing a Grinch episode is I actually do want to review the soundtrack because it's just filled with so many weird indie darling bands on it. It's bizarre.
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
Oh, here's the Eels and Ben Folds and Bare Naked Ladies on this soundtrack. So what we're saying is we're going to be angry this week.
Yeah. Not to bury the lead, but do you like the Santa Claus series?
So I've only, up until the pandemic, I'd only ever seen the first movie.
Really?
And I liked the first movie. I watched the first movie a lot. During the first Christmas of lockdown, I was like, oh, Disney Plus has all three. And I watched all three of them. And it's they get worse as they go along for sure. But even 3, as bad as 3 is, it's forgettably bad, not offensively bad.
Yeah.
But then we hear, they're bringing it back, the Santa Clauses. So at the time that we're recording this, Dylan and I have only watched 2 of the 6 episodes.
I watched 3.
Oh, you should have told me. I almost watched 3, but I was like, I don't want to be talking about stuff. And I'm going to watch all 6 before, I'm going to stick through it even though I don't like it. But here's the first thing, and this is something that happens a lot, and it drives me nuts. It happens on Netflix. It happens on Disney Plus. I don't care if you're going to do a mini series or a special event show, but if you're going to do that, the sum of all of the episodes combined shouldn't be shorter than a movie.
Yes.
And this, one of the biggest things, I'm just why isn't this a movie? All of these episodes are about 20 minutes long a piece. You assume that if you assembled it all into a movie, it'd be just shy of 2 hours, and you could probably trim a few things to get it to a good hour 40, hour 50. This doesn't need to be a 6-part show so far.
No.
I'm not going to say that it's all bad. I actually chuckled at a couple lines, but it's rough. This is boomer humor rough. To the nth degree.
Yeah. So the first one came out in 94.
And I saw it in theaters. I remember seeing that in theaters. Yeah.
I love the first one. I loved the first one as a kid. Tim Allen as Scott Calvin at the time really reminded me of my grandfather. And I absolutely adored the movie. And I liked kind of dipping our toe in the North Pole and stuff like that. And that was kind of cool. 10 years later, they put out the sequel, Santa Claus 2, the Mrs. Claus. And I had a lot of fun with that. I liked revisiting the character of Charlie. I thought that was kind of fun. He's this troublemaker. I thought that was kind of neat. You've got the Santa's kid getting on the naughty list. I thought that was kind of good. Again, I really dug Tim Allen in that one. Elizabeth Mitchell. I thought she was amazing in the sequel as well. There's a lot of heartfelt moments in that sequel where he goes to the school because she's a principal.
Is that the one where there's the Robo Santa too?
Yeah.
Part 2's fun. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with part 2.
I feel like with part 3, I feel like Disney was gripping onto the wrong parts that worked.
Yeah.
I think what works about the Santa Claus and the Santa Claus 2, I think the better moments are when they're not in the North Pole, like when they're in the real world and dealing with those problems. I think that's a lot of fun, and that's where you kind of get the real spirit of Christmas, where when we're just hanging out at the North Pole, it reminded me a lot of Fred Claus, where they're like, look at all these cool fucking colors, and look, they're elves, but guess what? There's kids playing the elves, and they're talking like adults, like they're sophisticated. They're not like your kids, and that's kind of it. That was a little bit in part 2, but that was like really shined in part 3. I don't know. I think the weakest moments of the Santa Claus franchise is when we're specifically in the North Pole. So 3 spent a lot of time there, and wouldn't you know it, the Santa Clauses is 90% dealing with them at the North Pole. And I felt like this is really hard. And when I texted you, we talked about how hard this is going to be to stay on a specific path.
I'm gonna read you a note that I wrote down.
Okay. All right, please do.
And I wrote down that I said, I might go blind with how frequently my eyes have rolled while watching this.
Yeah.
The Girls Just Want to Have Fun song is horrendous.
Yeah.
Who is this for? This is a weird blend of outdated boomer humor, but still with a try-hard mid-2000s Disney Channel original movie sense of humor.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know who the audience for this movie is, but like it's missing all of it because like it's not the boomer generation that cared about the Santa Claus.
Yeah.
It was us.
Yeah.
And like it was also our age group that kind of aged out of like the High School Musical and Beyond era of like Disney Channel original movies.
Yeah.
So like they are making a movie that is aimed at the exact 2 audiences who didn't have the nostalgia for the Santa Claus.
It's fucking weird, man.
It
like,
doesn't
I don't
make
even
sense.
know.
And Cal Penn is like the only saving grace in both of these episodes.
And I feel like he's even strange in this.
He's strange, but I feel like the only parts where most of the parts where I have chuckled have been his character. Like the very beginning of the first episode, episode 1, he's sitting there and he's doing a business meeting and he's like, look guys, I know that this sucks. We're having to work on Christmas Eve. Like we got to get this thing done. And then he's like, you know what? You guys all go home. Have a nice Christmas with your family.
And the one guy's signing off.
As he's closing the laptop, the one guy's just like, I have no family. like that got like a legitimate laugh out of me. Like, okay, that's a pretty good joke. Then it's like as soon as that happens, we get this nonsense scene where Santa's like, get me a crawler, my boy. And they like bazooka a donut into the sky so that he can catch it in his mouth. And I'm like, what the fuck is this?
So like the same company that did Andor and that did all of the amazing effects with the new Star Wars series, because say what you will about your thoughts about like the Disney Star Wars, but it looks fucking incredible. Like the CG and the effects are amazing.
Yeah.
Why the fuck between Thor Love and Thunder and this, because we're getting it in the movies and we're getting it on Disney Plus, it looks like shit.
It looks bad, but
absolute garbage.
I would even give the shitty effects a pass. It's the dialogue throughout this.
It's so bad.
Like another line of dialogue. So I wrote down two quotes while watching episode 1, and it said the line "Elves just got a elf" made me want to throw myself off of a roof. And then the other one said, somebody in a writer's room okayed the line, I have the body of an MMA fighter, not an M&M eater.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, that's not even creative wordplay at that point.
It's bad when your show called the Santa Claus, like, the most obnoxious character is Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And it's bad, man. It is... To me, it looks like instead of Tim Allen playing Santa Claus, it's Tim Allen playing Tim Allen dressed as Santa Claus.
It's the way that I wrote it down was like, I think that Tim Allen genuinely loves the character of Scott Calvin so much that he's trying to make Scott Calvin Tim Allen.
Yep.
Like,
yeah.
like I don't think that there is even a hint of disdain for Tim Allen playing this character. I really do think that he likes playing this character, but I think he wants this character to be him. and that's where like things are lost. And it's just like there's parts that are just dumb. Like the scene with Sarah made me so annoyed because it's like, what do you mean you're shocked she's not on the list now? It's been 22 years. She is a 28-year-old. So you're telling me last year she was on the list?
Yeah. Last year she remembered you?
Yeah, like I don't.
What the fuck?
I just like there's no consideration for the time
and like
passed,
that was
and
the first.
She could have moved.
And that was also the first moment we got the Tim Allen fuck the next generation humor. When she's like, I'm an adult living with my parents.
Oh, and that's not even the most egregious one.
Oh my
in this
God.
first
That's
episode,
the thing is like,
I can take that one. It's the scene where he's getting so frustrated that he can't call kids naughty because of like genuine behavior issues.
Yeah.
I'm like, who is this for? Like, I'm getting so, and I know who it's for. Because I'm sure my parents would love this. Like it's like
Same with mine.
Yeah.
And like here's my thing, okay? Is if this staunchly leaned the other way,
I would also be equally annoyed.
Exactly. If this went woke is like quotes around woke, because I fucking hate that term at this point. If it went that direction, it would still be just as fucking bad. I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, these damn like Republican conservative like messages that are being thrown in.
It's just not what should be in my fucking Santa Claus show.
I don't give a fuck if it's right side, left side. Just you saw my post. I guarantee it.
The war on Christmas.
Hate the war on Christmas garbage. As a teacher with 3 Christmas trees in his classroom in a public school, there is no war on Christmas.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you just need to accept that some people celebrate other shit.
Yeah,
it's okay. When I put those fucking trees up, the first thing I say to my students is there anyone in here who doesn't celebrate? Or I talk to them one-on-one. If you celebrate something else, I would love for some of my students to bring in like a menorah or something.
Get their own piece of culture.
Or like we can't light candles, obviously, but like we could bring in like a fake candle, or I could order something that would work. I would love that. But I've ended up, most of my students, all of my students, they celebrate Christmas, and that's just a fact. But you know what? Some people fucking don't. And when you say happy holidays, it doesn't mean you can't say Merry Christmas. It just means there's more than one goddamn holiday taking place this time of year.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, man. Look, if there was a war on Christmas, we couldn't have a podcast called Christmas 365.
Dude, if there was a war on Christmas, there wouldn't be 50 goddamn Christmas podcasts.
Yeah.
So many people love Christmas. Nobody, like, what the fuck, man? You can't even say Merry Christmas anymore. Fuck you, dude. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking tired of this bullshit.
There we go. All right. Well, I want to read you. I signed up for Hive the other day.
Is Twitter going to be gone by the time we're talking?
It might be.
By the time everybody hears this.
I only have one post on Hive right now, and I'm pretty proud of it. It says, the Santa Claus's TV show is so inspired by Tim Allen's politics that it should just be called Last Man Santin.
Oh, my God. That's so good.
So there's only other one thing that I wrote down for episode 1.
Yeah.
And again, it's Kal Penn. I feel like being the one saving grace in this show is that Santa walks into a house and the TV's on.
Yeah.
And they're interviewing him. They're like, you promised that this thing would be available by Christmas time. And he goes, well, I did say Christmas time. I just didn't say which Christmas. And then he looks off camera and goes, I told you a joke was a bad idea. like he is so fucking funny in this.
And where did that take place? In the real world.
In the real world. And this is a thing that I did write this down. This is not specifically with this. This is an issue I have with shit like Elf and all of the other Santa Claus movies. Is like the logic of the films are so bizarre to me that Santa can only exist as long as people believe in him. But like, how do people in a world where a real life Santa Claus is dropping unexplained gifts at people.
Where do these gifts come from?
Yeah, like, I don't get how every parent in the world has just written off that unexplained gifts from Santa have shown up for their kids every single year. Like, how do you lose Christmas magic in that world?
It's always like the mom looks at the dad and is like, did you get that? No, did you get that?
And then they look up to the sky.
And then by next year, Santa doesn't exist. Like,
yeah, it's like, it infuriates me. And
Dude,
that's just whatever. So then we jump into episode 2. I have way less notes on episode 2.
So episode 2 is the first time that we see an opening credits. It is a stoner's wet dream, dude.
It's so short. It's too short to even skip the intro.
It's so wild to me. So I don't know if we get the full opening in episode 1, but like, so it reminds me of BoJack Horseman.
Yes.
Like, it's so bizarre.
Yeah, it's like a reindeer like flying at you with candy canes and Santa's falling all over the place.
Lo-fi, like boom.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, it's bizarre.
It is so strange.
So I only have 4 notes written down. I'm gonna read them real quick.
Go for it.
And then we can dive in from there. First note says, I want the horror movie version of this show where the drone causes a full-blown bloodbath and that...
Dude, that was so funny.
Yes. But I don't know if it was funny for the exact reason that it was written to be funny, but I was laughing either way. The line that actually got a legitimate laugh out of me was Charlie's wife when she goes, I made the lemonade just the way you like it. No lemons.
Yeah.
Like, just straight sugar
water. I
water.
did like seeing Charlie again.
Yeah.
I like what they did with that character.
He's never told his wife or kids that his dad is Santa Claus.
That's so fucking funny to me. What did he say? What was the
He's like shrimping off of Greenland somewhere.
I'm starting to think you don't have a shrimp boat. Like, that shit is hilarious.
And then there's another quote that actually got a laugh out of me, which is Betty, the kind of the main elf that we're focusing on is Betty and Noel.
I think she is really good.
She's really good. Noel, however, not the strongest actor I've ever seen.
I'm so over it.
But she
because
says
it's a one-note bit.
Yeah, Santa's my homeboy. He's my best friend. There's nothing.
I'm so sad he's leaving, and he does that for 3 episodes, and there's 3 more of these.
Yeah. But the line that Betty has is they're talking about the 2 kids that have been growing up at the North Pole the entire time.
Yeah.
And she says, we've done a study on the side effects of growing up in the North Pole, and the kids always turn out kind of weird. And Santa goes, oh, how many kids did you test this on? And she goes, including your 2 kids? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, 2.
I enjoy the kids.
I'm over the VR thing already, though. I'm just like...
I cannot fucking stand the whole... Because this is straight up boomer humor of, like, these kids today and their technology. Like, that's what that is.
Yeah.
That's all this is.
And that's the thing. This was a better episode up until that bullshit started. But then I get it. You know what I mean? Like, I do think it turns sweet at the very end when it's revealed, like, oh, he's not in some crazy VR simulation. He's just imagining a normal life as a person. Yeah. And it's like, that's the thing that, like, as frustrating as this is, the actual human aspect of the, there's moments where I'm like, fuck, I am going to watch all 6 episodes of this.
Yeah.
Hey, do you have an idea for a podcast but don't know where to start? Or do you have an already existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Well, check out WeKnowPodcasting.com. From concept development to theme music to editing to logos, WeKnowPodcasting.com is a one-stop shop for all things pod. Don't hesitate to hit us up. We're very nice.
Best case scenario for this whole fucking thing, and here's what I'm hoping happens. Obviously, the people who are listening know how it ends by the time this episode comes out.
Bernard becomes Santa.
No, I would love that. I mean, if Bernard shows up, that'd be dope.
Because we know he's coming back. He was in the trailers.
Yeah. But it's like, or Cal Penn.
Here's what I'm worried about.
Oh, no, that they go full, like, Amazon. Santa becomes, like, an Amazon delivery service all year round.
I'm really fucking worried. And again, the people listening will be able to tell us. And I hope this doesn't happen because the people are listening is like, oh, no, Dylan. You know, like, I wish I could go back in time and tell past Dylan this is how it ends. Like, I'm picturing... like we get Escape Clause again, but instead of Martin Short, Cal Penn is playing that role of taking over the North Pole and it being real shitty. And Scott Calvin needs to save the day. Well,
you're 3 episodes in. I'm 2 episodes in. Has that been implied at all by episode 3?
I'm so sorry. I don't want to spoil it, but
I mean,
but again,
is Kal Penn at the North Pole yet by
Yes.
episode? Okay.
Yes, by episode 3, Kal Penn is at the North Pole.
Even if that's the situation, at most it's what, 1 episode, 2 episodes, because you got to wrap this
That's
shit up
true.
by episode 6.
That's
I was gonna say if it's not happened yet, then it's definitely only for 1 episode that things are shitty. And even the cliffhangers are kind of like dumb.
Yeah.
Like the one cliffhanger was just like, oh, Santa fell off the roof. I hope they didn't kill Scott Calvin 1 episode into this show.
That'd have been some shit. That
Dude,
I would have done.
We would have been
if we
raving about this shit.
Yeah.
But again, it's also, you know what? Give us a week to worry about that. But they didn't because they dropped the first 2 episodes on the same day. So it's
Exactly.
like no tension existed in
And
that scene.
It's because like not everything is fucking Marvel, dude. Like
No.
we don't need a cliffhanger.
No.
Do I think fucking like Cyclops is gonna show up in the Santa Clauses? Like I don't need that. I don't need any of that. Just give me a good, funny, lighthearted show.
Well,
And that's- I don't know what I wanted. I know what I wanted. I didn't want this to exist.
No, there was no reason for it to exist.
No.
And like I don't know why. Well, I do know why, because money. But like Disney is so insistent on like, oh, the story has to progress. The story has to progress. And it's like, no, it fucking doesn't. Like,
No.
you could do something in the same vein as like Love, Death, and Robots, or even like the Tales of the Jedi, where you just do like a series of like 7 short 10-minute episodes about like one girl waiting up, like a different kid each episode waiting to see Scott Calvin Santa Claus show up, and it would have been like magical and special, and it's just like these cute little mini stories about like Christmas magic. And instead, like you said, it's this boomer ass like, oh, everyone's too sensitive. No one can discipline their kids today. All the kids want video games. Like, can't say Merry Christmas in the streets.
What were
like,
do you remember what were the 2 kids when they were in the meeting? Do you remember what they were getting in trouble for?
I forget what they were getting in trouble for. I just remember
stupid. Like I was with the girl who's like, I mean, that doesn't make him a shitty kid.
Yeah. Well, she said that, but then the other one, she literally was like, Santa, I'm pretty sure that's like a clear example of like having some type of bipolar
Like
disorder.
ADHD,
Like
I think she
ADHD.
brought up.
Yeah, like it's like, and he just like rolls his eyes like, oh, that made up diagnosis that everyone uses to explain their
That's a
kid's
real
bed
fucking thing.
Yeah, like.
God, this show sucks.
But then they
I'm gonna watch the whole fucking thing.
But they do redeem a little bit of that joke where he's like, maybe we could just delegate this to somebody else.
Yeah.
And she's just like, ooh, we can mark all the boys as naughty and all the girls as good. And he's like, I thought we couldn't say naughty or nice. She's like, I do believe that, but once you gave me the power, it was irresistible.
I got the taste of the power. I will say a few good things about this. Again, bringing up the actress that played Betty, Matilda Lawler, I thought she was great. I really enjoy Elizabeth Mitchell as Carol, Mrs. Claus. Curious where that plot kind of goes, because it's obvious she does not want to stay at the North Pole. Like, she wants to experience normal life, and I like that. I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes, because she also made me laugh, even though a lot of her plot line is very boomer humor-ish, of like, I don't have any, like, nobody knows who Mrs. Claus is, like, I just work in the kitchen, stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm enjoying it. I like the way
I like her storyline way more than anything happening right now.
Yeah, I love her reactions to some of the things,
and I do like that they call up that he's like, you know, when I killed the previous Santa and I showed up, everyone was so happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do like that they're like finally being like, hey, what was the story with like all the past Santa Clauses in history?
Yeah.
Like, maybe when this is all over, we'll reassess, but probably not.
I mean, so here's what we'll probably do when it's done and we both watched it. Like, this is never going to be like a topic where you're like, we need to watch this by this time.
Yeah.
But like when it's done, and if you and I both come together and we've watched it, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
Like,
perfect.
We can definitely
so there
get
may
back
or may
together.
not be a follow-up,
Yes.
depending on how much we
Yeah.
feel like, ooh, those other 4 episodes really shifted our opinions on everything.
And I think, again, I don't
If it feels like we'd just be repeating this episode a second time, but with more episodes to talk about, because we don't want to be like, guys, we got another one that we got to record today that's also not something that we're like gung-ho about. But at the time that we're recording this, Dylan hasn't watched Spirited yet. Is that correct?
I have not watched Spirited yet.
Stay tuned, because I have a feeling that the Spirited episode is going to be exactly what you come to Christmas 365 about, where it's just like two dudes just overwhelmingly happy about the joy of Christmas because of something that they watched.
There are some heavy hitters that, again, I think I'm excited to watch. I'm excited for Spirited. As much as I didn't want to be, another Christmas Story Christmas is getting decent reviews.
People are really seeming to like it.
I'm fuck yeah, like I'm for it.
I'd rather like it. Yeah,
I don't want to dislike things. Like I wanted to turn on the Santa Clauses and be wrong.
Yes,
like with what I was anticipating, because I was anticipating exactly what we got. It really does upset me. And again, I don't want this to be looked at as one side versus the other, because again, if it was just heavy-handed with leftist views,
I'd be pissed.
I'd be annoyed
equally
as well.
Pissed. Yeah,
I don't fucking want it. I don't need it. That's not what I want in my Christmas movies.
It's just kind of fear-mongering, fake. Stuff.
It's the fake war on Christmas, and the war on Christmas does not exist.
Yeah. Well, Dylan, happy fake war on Christmas.
Happy fake war on Christmas.
Whoa, now we won't stop till the big ball drops on New Year's. Happy holly, have a great holly, have a merry happy holiday.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.